G'day everyone, and welcome to this week's Camera Ready Confessions with me, your host Zoë Wood, the video confidence coach, where I bring you a weekly live stream bridging personal branding and video marketing so you can shine as the obvious choice. Make sure you can watch and listen to this live stream on all platforms that you are watching us now on, or listening if you're so inclined. Make sure to comment your questions, thoughts, ideas for camera confessions throughout today and after today's live stream, because I do my best to always reply. And for the replay squad, please do let me know and I'll make sure to respond to all comments for the videos. And live streams, of course. And you can find out more information about these live streams, podcasts, and other products that we serve at vcc.training. That's the whole thing, vcc.training. All right, beautiful. And now that I can see that the audio is actually working, because guess what? Who forgot to do stuff last week? And I promise I want to thank everyone who was commenting on the live stream, and I apologize sincerely that I did not interpret your comments correctly, as in, because there are multiple aspects to this live stream. There is my voice recording, but there's also sounds going on in the background. There's also other things that I'm switching in and out of. So those sounds were working, but my sound wasn't, and I apologize for not understanding what you meant. So in turn, I have deleted that one. I'm so sorry. That is a completely rookie mistake from my end. I am so sorry. I promise I'll do better this week. Before I continue though, I would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which I conduct my business. I pay my respects to their elders past and present. I stand with the traditional custodians of these lands in working towards a more equal future. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people continue to face discrimination and disadvantage due to our country's colonial past. I stand with them in their fight against injustice. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. And especially on today, which is closing the Gap Day, where, for those who are unfamiliar, the Australian government has been working fairly hard on doing its best to close the gap between Indigenous living and educational standards and the rest of Australia, honestly, Metro and White Australia. And every time they set these goals, they make a really big fuss out of it, whoever is in power at the time, honestly, when it comes to politicians. And then every single time they're not meeting those benchmarks. Yes, they're making progress. Great. But it's one of those things where not enough, it's not even funds, but not enough discretion. And then you're leaving Indigenous people out on the lurch again, as that continues to happen throughout history. And of course, I don't know the full scope. I am not a politician. I am not a historian. I just know that we have so much opportunity in Australia and resources to be able to put towards closing the gap. But it continues to be a gap. I have things to say. But that is not what this live stream is about. So thank you everyone who is joining me for today's live stream. Looking back on today's quarter, I have been very, very, very at capacity at the moment. So I apologize if I have missed any calls or comments or DMs or emails. I'm doing my best to be on top of things. But as soon as we reach April, as soon as we get past Easter, I will have so much more capacity. I love working in the real world. And thank you everyone who I have met in the meantime and who I continue to work with during this first quarter. So my focus was going to be the quiz. Still haven't done it yet. So that'll be my next focus. What I would like to touch on quickly is what I'm offering down in the description below is my camera color corrector card. Essentially, it allows you to color correct your videos, and it's a postcard, so it's a real life mail and you get a message from me. So I would love to be able to send that to you real world mail, so make sure to check out the description below where you can find the details for this guy, where I can send it to you. And then once I sent it to you, like I delete your posting details because I don't really need it beyond the one thing that I'm sending it to. But ultimately, I put it in front of my face. 1, 2, 3. And there you go. And then I'll be able to reference that when I'm editing, have a nice big block of white right near my face so that the color correcting can do its job. Yay! I want to thank everyone who I've had conversations with this week, specifically Louise, Nadine, Carla, and Kylie. I want to thank you all for reaching out to me this week, and I appreciate your patience as I'm taking a little bit of time to do things. But we had beautiful chats with everyone, from everything about podcasting all the way to other aspects of personal branding and marketing, leaving a corporate job. So don't worry, I have plenty of stuff to go into that I can release publicly, of course, as we continue. And I did have a question recently sent via my DMs about disclosure, I should say. And because when I speak, on any of my platforms, podcasts or otherwise, I do have a tendency of putting in stories of myself, of my clients, of experience, so you can ground whatever I'm mentioning, whatever tool I'm using. Like, I can give you some grounding and also keep you entertained in the meantime. And I've had a couple of people ask, like, oh, aren't you worried about being sued or NDAs and all that type of stuff? Well, thank you so much for your question. Ultimately, I don't really worry too much about that particularly. The reason being is because I'm not giving away identifying information. I'm talking generals and specifics. Yes, I may be giving someone's experience, but I also have their permission to do so. I also talk about it in a way of like, hey, do you mind if I use this example? And they usually say yes, because it's a way of getting that message out there, as you can imagine. But also, like, I'm not saying anything derogatory or anything bad. And in those moments where I'm, talk about someone who I didn't have a good experience with, I do not mention them by name. I do not mention the business by name. Put some generic information about it, but you don't necessarily know that information to then make an assumption on this person's or their behavior, because everyone's behavior is concurrent of what's going on around them and what's happening in their head or what's happening outside of their head, in their body, in their family, in their life, and blah, blah, blah. And some people make mistakes, and that's okay. But I don't need to necessarily forgive every single mistake, and neither should you. And if I make a really big mistake, do let me know. I will apologize if it's a true mistake. And in the event that it's not, you don't have to forgive me. So looking on recently, the Unboring Your Brand podcast. That is the podcast that I run every single week, releasing at 6 a.m. Every Wednesday, 6 a.m. Melbourne time. And as you may have noticed, I've had a couple of people notice, I've moved from saying Australian Eastern Standard Time to Melbourne time, mainly because daylight savings is a bitch. And it ruins all my things, and everything ends up being like an hour out. And I've gotten over it, and I just say, screw it, Melbourne time, because Melbourne time is my time that I'm working on. So thank you. Thank you for everyone who's been dealing with that particular flexibility. But this week, we recently had episode 103, which was Work From Home Smarter. This is a recap episode from episode 403, episode 051, I should say, where I talked about working from home, the setup that and tools and techniques and tactics that I recommend for people who are overwhelmed from working at home or working hybrid from home. Now, I'm sure a lot of us during the BC and during the Big Panini all had like experiences of working from home. But I would like to reiterate to a couple of people that not everyone had that opportunity. Not everyone has had that opportunity to work from home, to be safe with their families and their loved ones. A lot of people had to be essential workers and go out there into the big world and risk themselves and their families to be able to deliver essential work. So I have to keep that in mind for a lot of people when working from home may be a new experience for some. So I want to keep that in mind for everyone, including myself. So that was that particular episode. I got a lot of good comments from the last time I ran that episode, so I wanted to run it again as we bridge into March 2026. I know what year it is. It has definitely been a long week, so thank you all for your patience. Moving on to Vic Podcasters. So you can find out more at vcc.training/Vic-podcasters, but essentially Vic Podcasters is the place where you is a online community on Facebook, LinkedIn, and your email newsletter where you can grow your podcast with beginner tips and friendly advice. And you can connect, create, and collaborate with other podcasters. And as you can imagine, we are drumming up for our big event that is happening tonight at 6 p.m. Melbourne time. So that is Scrappy Podcasting Sprint Live Q&A, where I will be streaming that to the people that are live in the room, and the recording will be available for all that register. And then little bits and snippets will be put out throughout the groups. So I wanted to have this as an opportunity for people that aren't able to make it live to be able to have their questions answered during the stream. So you can register for the event and then put those details down in there. And then if you aren't able to make it, that is perfectly fine. Register anyway and give me the questions that you want to answer, and I can answer them. And for everyone else, you will have you will have snippets of those as it comes out over the next couple of months as we are gearing up for our second event of the year, which will be around end of June, start of July. Probably end of June because I have holiday at the start of July. That will be about a certain aspect of podcasting that people really want to hear about. So we can always make sure that we set up those events. And I want to make sure that I give people what they need. So if you are interested in that, please do stop by. Or just join the groups, because we have a lot of people who are interested in learning about podcasting or growing their podcast if you are someone who is a seasoned professional. Now, we are 17 minutes in and we're going to get to today's topic, which is how do I sound less salesy? And this is a topic that comes up a surprising amount. Usually, honestly, comes up in different forms when it comes to the people that I work with, and this may be yourself, where you have had one or probably a few awkward sales conversations in your life. Some annoying sales conversations in your life, and you cringe at the thought of being like them. Are you like them, though? Are you going to be them, though? And for honestly, if you are conscious about the other person in the exchange and situation and experience to the point where you're like, I don't want to be you salesy, you're coming from the right place. You want to help solve a problem, and you want to be able to provide a solution to someone's problem, right? That's what we want to do here. So in turn, you need to make sure that you can clearly communicate that. And for a lot of people, I'm going to tell you now that a majority of your audience aren't educated enough to know that A, there's a problem to begin with, or B, there's a solution to this problem. They just thought they're going to have to live with it and deal with it, or they're just overwhelmed by the potential options to a solution that they don't even know either where to begin, where to start, like where do I even go with this? And you, as the personal brand builder, as the industry authority, thought leader, whatever term you want to use, you are the guide in that scenario. And you do this by communicating your message or multiple messages through your content, through your website, through stage, there's plenty of ways to get your message out there, and that's what marketing here is for. That's why I'm a marketing coach. I also want to let you know that it is a skill that is practiced over time. Very much like confidence. Confidence isn't a magical phantom thing that just appears out of the ether of your inner core being and soul. It is a skill that is practiced over time. And for a lot of people, it's something that they don't want to practice because that is so far outside their comfort zone. And that's okay. But you want to help people. You want to serve people. So in turn, you need to brave that comfort zone and get out there. So here you are. And when it comes to selling, it is a skill, I'm going to say now, that I haven't fully mastered either. I am getting there in regards to skill because I put myself in situations that involve me selling myself, selling my personal brand, selling my skills and my message, but also selling the skills of others, referring other people, referring my business buddies, referring my acquaintances, referring people who I've met multiple times in real life and go, yeah, they're a good egg. Yeah, they can help you with your leadership problem. They can help you with your lawn problem. They can help you with your social media problem. Again, practicing selling when you are building a personal brand is a thing that you're going to have to build up. And you probably, most definitely, have a very unique story of why you started this personal brand, why you started this business, or why you do what you do. Why do you focus on who you focus on? There is a story behind that. And in turn, you're selling yourself and your experience in that interaction, in that experience. So try honing those sales skills, just nudging it over a little bit to help benefit you, be able to allow you to make money, provide for yourself, provide for your family, be able to live the life that you want to live. Because when exchanging services, products, you're there to help solve people's problems. And in turn, they're going to need your skills, your time, or a combination of both to be able to achieve that. So in turn, they need to pay you for your time and expertise. And that involves selling yourself. You've got this. So today we are going to discuss a couple of community questions. So for those who may be not in the know, community questions are short, sharp questions that people have given to me via email, DM, or comments sometimes. And I like to answer these as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible to stop myself from rambling, because I do that a lot. And as you may have seen a couple of seconds ago, I was rambling quite a lot. I want to be able to be succinct. So in that, I'm going to have to try and be succinct while answering these questions. A little bit around salesy. I chose a couple of questions that were around sales. So we are going to take a break. I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to drink some water. I'm going to check that the technology is working because it's being a bit annoying. And in the event that it's not working, I'm going to fix it. And then we will go answer community questions. So when it comes to podcasts on your marketing, if you're, say, 2 to 3 years in, you're fairly comfortable, your cash flow is going okay, you're paying your debts, you're doing your things, and you've got the capacity to start showcasing yourself and your knowledge and trying to be that authority in your particular niche or space, a podcast is a great spot for you. It is a great opportunity. It is really easy to start, especially if you're only focusing on an audio-only platform. And if you are a yapper, to be honest, most of the people that I attract are yappers. We like to talk and like to talk. So for those type of people, a podcast is great. All I keep getting are clients who are tie kickers, who are bargain hunters, who don't really want real transformation, which is what I give. They just want cheap and cheerful. And I hate it. Well, Kayla, let me answer your question of how do I attract better fitting clients to my content? Let me do that again. Well, Kayla, in answering your question, how do I attract better fit clients with my content? This is how you do it, speedrun edition. So essentially what you're needing is a better message with your content. Essentially what's happening here is that you're appealing to people's hip pocket, you're appealing to their money or their bargain, and maybe the people that you're currently targeting at the moment, whether you're starting a personal brand or not, are probably the ones who want a bargain more than not, because maybe they're starting out, they're trying new things. What you need to do is position your messaging and marketing towards a niche group who are willing to spend the money, who understand the need for what you do and what you provide and the services you provide, and start with them first. You're not negating the other people, you're not ignoring the other people, probably who need your help. You're starting with the people who are willing to pay you, give you the resources, give you the money, give you the time to be able to then market to the people that maybe aren't willing to pay your services for your the fees for your services, but are willing to pay it for products, for knowledge, for information like that. Maybe they're willing to do that because it may be a case that they are looking for more of a bargain because maybe they don't entirely trust you just yet. So make sure that you position yourself for people who are willing to pay you in the meantime, and you're able to expand from there once you have found people who share the same values as you, who can clearly communicate why they want you, and if they don't understand why they would want you, make sure that you educate them. But it also helps to find people who know that you are the solution to their problem. And you do that by building trust over time with consistency in your content. You've got this, Kayla. That is excessive, and even present me thinks that is damn excessive. So for most people, I'm going to stress this now, 1 to 2 networking events a month is very reasonable, especially when you're working in a small business and it's just you and you've got a lot of things to do. I was overdoing it. How do you build a personal brand that feels calm but still gets attention, especially in this chaotic online world? Well, Marcus emailed me and said, essentially, in summary, I've got years of experience, but online, you'd never know it because I'm ready to be more visible without just screaming at the top of my lungs. And that's not going to help, especially on the internet. So when it comes to the work that you're trying to do, Marcus, and you're building your personal brand because you have experience, you probably have multiple decades worth of experience in your little industry or your little niche or your little wherever you are in the world. What I'm going to say is you don't necessarily need to be loud or be vocal to get the attention that you need. You need to know who you're targeting. You need to know why you're targeting them and what solutions you're providing. And you also need to know what values align with yourself and the people who are going to pay you at the end of the day. Because when you are trying to build this, essentially this trust and this content to then back up the trust, give proof of what you're doing, and to build this personal brand, you don't have to do this in a chaotic fashion. You can do this calmly with your own presence, but you're going to need to practice this and to build trust over time. There are many tactics that we can use, Marcus, to be able to get you there. But to start off with, try. See where your audience is, and in a specific place, become the expert in that space. I would recommend maybe an online group or a forum or somewhere where your people you know already are. And then from there, expand. Because you will do it in a calmly fashion that hopefully doesn't burn your brains out. And that's something that definitely helps you stand out when networking in a either large networking group or at an event where it can be sort of overwhelming and there's a lot of business cards and flyers flowing about. If you're able to give something really unique and touching, then that will make you and help you stand out long after the actual event has occurred. I'm okay doing the work. I just don't like talking about it. It makes me feel awkward. How do I show my value online and building my personal brand without feeling like I'm bragging? Well, Chloe, I understand exactly where you're coming from. And yes, you do the work and you do the work well. But you have to tell people about it. You have to be your best, you have to get them, not necessarily grab a microphone and start yelling in people's faces, but you do have to tell people about it. You have to put it on your website. You have to put it in your emails. You have to put it on your socials. You don't have to put it across a billboard and do that, but you need to tell people of your achievements. Same way as having a resume and putting your best foot forward when you're trying to get the job. You're trying to show people, because if you do not tell people, they will not know. And that is a repeated fact about the online space. And when you are building a personal brand, you're trying to have your reputation precede you, so you can get the clients, get the service, get the money, get people buying from you. It all trickles down from there. It's all about proof. It's all about trust, as it always is. But for you, when it comes to showing value online, maybe reframe it away from bragging to informing a friend, to telling them what has happened for you. It can be something as simple as a post on social media, that letting people know that you've won an award, or that you've been able to get a new car. Or it doesn't even have to be monetary things, by the way, Chloe. It can be something as simple as, here is what I've been able to achieve, or I've spent the entire week without feeling chronic pain, and I've been able to help my community in that meantime. Those are accomplishments, and that's not bragging. You're telling people what you can achieve, what you have achieved, and what you're going to achieve for others who you serve. You've got this, Chloe. People are going to enjoy and people are going to like you more if you let them speak more. People are going to keep talking if you stand there and listen and, provide helpful tips every now and again. They're going to like you way more because you let them speak. That is a useful unwritten rule when it comes to networking. So how succinct was that? Not very. I kind of repeated myself a couple of bits in there, but thank you everyone in the meantime. So those community questions are then taken, they're chopped up a little bit, did a little bit of editing, put on social media on the website to help support what I'm saying, what I'm doing. I do try my best to be very succinct and very on top, but I also kind of go off the cuff. I don't really have a plan or a script for any of these questions. I just kind of have the question, then I just go into answering mode. So my apologies if it's not as clean as you would like. So hopefully that's something in the meantime. But today we're going to record a episode that I have had a lot of questions about recently, and this has to do with sales and sounding you salesy. And specifically, this is from an email that I received and a conversation, an ongoing conversation I've had with Jess. And this question is about, how do I stop tire kickers from eating up all my goddamn time without feeling rude? So that is what today's Unboring Your Brand podcast episode is going to be recorded today. Now, of course, these episodes are then put into a blender and then they eventually get spit out onto the feed. But of course, I have a tendency of recording multiple things for the podcast. So do not worry if you see this episode and then see it, 2 or 3 months down the line. That's what we're here for. So that's what we're going to do. But we're going to take a break. I'm going to have a drink. I'm going to check my texts again. Make sure I'm not missing any questions. And then we'll go straight on to stop feeding the seagulls. Now centering in on one. And you've given yourself a really clear metric in the sense of, I want to give myself 6 months. And if I do not get at least 2 leads, at least one that I can convert, then I'm going to reevaluate, get to that point, and then say, for example, okay, it's been 6 months. I've gotten maybe 4 leads, but none of them have been hot. Okay, let's look at the analytics. Okay, the analytics for the amount of work and time and effort that I'm putting into this platform is not really giving me the return that I need. I've also, 6 months in a business can also change quite a lot. All right, let me reevaluate. And then from there, if you want to move to one of your other platforms as your focus, then do it. Again, make sure that you let people know, hey, LinkedIn people, hey, we're going to be doing a lot more posts on Instagram. If you want to keep up to date, make sure to follow us on Instagram, follow da. But again, the amount of effort that you're putting across many will be more beneficial if you focus on one. If you keep feeding the seagulls, they will keep coming back and your energy will be eaten alive. When I say seagulls, I mean tire kickers. Come with me. Welcome to the Unboring Your Brand podcast, where we are recording an episode about tire kickers. A long-awaited episode, I must say. So, and yes, we are talking about something when you are building your community and you are having to start moderating and being a bit more discerning. So you've gone past the beginner stage of building your personal brand, of welcoming anyone and everyone, which is totally understandable. You are starting off, you are trying to get everyone on board. But then once you started getting a community going, you started having a regular flow of content and of proof to back up what you're doing and saying, you're going to get tire kickers. Or in my case, you get tire kickers as soon as you come out of the gate. And I'll definitely tell that story later on in today's episode. But the question that I got was from an email exchange that I've had with Jess. So hi, Jess. We have had multiple conversations about things. But one of the questions that I got from you that was very poignant that I wanted to answer in today's episode was essentially, how do I stop tire kickers from eating up my time without feeling rude? So ultimately, I'm going to clarify what tire kickers are for people who are outside of the Australian oeuvre. And I might be an American thing, I'm not entirely sure. But ultimately, tire kickers are people who hover, who ask, but ultimately they take, but they don't commit. So these are people who are in your professional life, or maybe in your personal life, who just kind of go around the edges. They poke and prod. They maybe ask a couple of questions, but then they don't commit. And it is okay. I want to stress that it is okay for people to ask questions of you. It is okay for people to poke and prod your personal brand a bit to see if you're worth trusting. You're not just a guru. You're not just going to scam them and walk away. It's okay for people to try out things, to maybe sign up to your lead magnets or email lists. We're talking about people who talk about all the bravado, who say, hey, this is my intention, this is what I want to do. You've probably met them at networking events, or maybe you've met them online and they say, hey, I'm really interested in this thing. Can I have the link for this thing? And you go, okay, you send the link, and then they don't have the wherewithal, the knowledge, or frankly, enough fucks to give to be able to then respond to you and let you know how it went, or maybe that, hey, I checked this more out, this is not my thing right now. And to be honest, that's a lot of humility that people don't have. And tire kickers are people who just constantly take and have no intention of giving. Not just in maybe a contra deal that you've done. When I say contra, as in a deal that you've done or a collaboration that you've done with someone else, either growing their personal brand or maybe a small business, or in a bigger business, depending on the corporation. And you are, putting your reputation on the line, you're putting yourself on the line, and they're giving nothing. But they get all the benefit. Kind of like a group project at school. Let's not talk about that piece of trauma. But for tire kickers who you have met and will continue to meet in your life, when you are growing a personal brand, you are doing it for others, you are not doing it for yourself. And in turn, you are going to get people who want to take advantage of that, because of course they do. They always do. But for these tire kickers, the goal is not to be harsh. I know that sounds a bit mean. And I'm not saying this to the women and non-binary folk who are watching and listening today. You don't need to be nice. You can be mean. You can just tell them to F off. That is an option. But with these particular types of people, especially once you've identified them, be it you've clocked them straight away, or maybe it's a little bit later and you've realized, oh, this person's just a tire kicker. What do you do with that? So today I want to be able to give you some tactics on how to protect your time and focus your energy to be able to then focus that energy on the right people, as opposed to the people who just are not worth it in any fashion. And the way to think about this is, once you've identified these tire kickers, again, you can either clock them, or maybe they take a little while to sink in. This can be both in your personal and your private life. We need a simple way to respond that doesn't ultimately drain you. And frankly, you don't need to say a lot. You don't need to do a lot. I have templates for these sort of things. I have AI chatbot things that do with the work in the background. I personally view AI as a tool. Do I believe it's being exploited? Yes. Do I believe that all these people who have vested interest in us using it for absolutely everything are not the right people to be doing that type of stuff? I totally agree. Is it a tool that I use and play around with? Yes. Do I use it for everything? No, because I have my brain. And a tool is designed to be a tool to use. I'll have a diatribe later on. Ultimately, when it comes to these type of things, the less effort it takes, the better. And for situations like this, I have templates, like I mentioned before, that I keep in my email templates box. I also have text expanders, which I also use. So a text expander is on a desktop keyboard where you use a few taps, and essentially it puts in all the details that you've already created to expand the text into a sentence, a couple of sentences, a paragraph. And I use that for whenever I come across tire kickers. And my methodology is not to be entirely rude. I can be upfront, I can be direct, but not to be, F you for wasting my time, goodbye. Because it could be a case that someone's reaching out to you, acting like a tire kicker, but then they just got distracted or life things happened. And it's not a reflection of you, but the way you react is a reflection of you. We are talking about the tire kickers and scaring away seagulls, not people who have true intention and just aren't able to make it. So come with me on a journey. Before I get into my next point, I want to take you on a story. Sit down, children. I'm going to tell you about the time that my first client absolutely screwed me. So speaking of seagulls, I first started my first business when I was in high school. I was 14 and I started my business because I needed money. I needed money for food and I needed to live. And at the time in high school, I had around about 4 to 5 hours to kill every single day where I wasn't actively at school. I mean, I was on the school grounds, but I wasn't actively doing school in those 5 hours because this was before and after school. You can do the math on how long that was. And in turn, I started a business because I was able to take control of my life for the first time. I was able to make my own money and make good money doing it too. And once I started making good money, of course, had to pay for more things, which is the way of life. But my first client was a gentleman that I came across at a networking event. Now, Matthew, rest in peace, who organised my first networking event in Geelong in Wadawurrung country, where I am. I want to thank you, Matt, who has recently passed away, who organised those events. I told him I was 18. I was definitely 14. And I apologise for that, Matthew. But yes, so I met this gentleman who was starting a catering business. And at the time, I was incredibly fresh. I was incredibly new to it. And of course, I was also very young, so my frontal lobe wasn't fully developed either. But of course, I looked like an adult and I acted like an adult to the most part. So I took whatever opportunities I had with both hands. And this guy needed a logo. Cool. I charged $50. I'm going to tell you now, that was way too low for the amount of work that needed to be done. But I used it as a learning opportunity. But it was because I didn't know how to price things. I didn't know how long something was going to take. And $50 was not worth it. If you're starting out, don't charge $50 for a logo. And I followed tutorials. I made sure to, put these, I took his recommendations. I put stuff together. And I also made sure that when I sent him over the files, I made sure that they were low poly, as in low quality, and I had my copyright over the top so he could see what the logo looked like, but wasn't going to shaft away and run away. Or so I thought. Dun, dun, dun. And then, so I sent the logos to him. He came back to me almost within a day saying, great, awesome, this is the changes that I want to see. Awesome. So then I made some changes and gave him the revisions. Again, these were low poly, had my name blasted across the top because of copyright. And then the second time, didn't hear from him for a day. Didn't hear him the next day. Didn't hear him a day after that. So I thought, this is strange. He was very gung-ho. Okay, I'll send him an email and see what happens. 2 weeks later, after multiple phone calls, multiple emails, and multiple texts, he does not respond. He has ghosted me. And unlucky for him, I knew where his offices were. So one day I had some free spare periods. So ultimately at school, technically I should have been on school grounds, but we'll digress. And I took a bus, went to his office and got into the office. I chatted with the nice receptionist who probably was a relative. And she ultimately said, oh, he's not in. He's not in right now. Oh, he's left to go talk to a client. I said, that's okay. I'll just sit in the office and wait. And she couldn't say no. So I did. So I went, sat in the office. I sat down, positioned myself, looked up. The entire room was filled with Vistaprint quality everything. I am talking banners, pens, like shower curtains, notepads, everything you could possibly think of was in this tiny room. Like, it wasn't a very large office either. It was a tiny room. And it was wall to ceiling in one of my now looking back, I say shitty designs, but one of my low quality, as in the size quality, because I did good work, by the way. Even though I was new to it, I did good work, by the way. With my name still plastered across it on what I could judge about $5,000 worth of materials. And again, that was the stuff that I could see, let alone the stuff that he had in like boxes or in cupboards or what have you. And I'm just sitting here getting angrier and fuming. This guy spent $5,000 plus on Vistaprint. Now, Vistaprint is a print-on-demand service in Australia. And I want to say, I have Vistaprint stuff. Like, my camera color corrector card is Vistaprint. I have a couple of other things. I'm not saying Vistaprint is bad. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, someone who didn't even want to spend $50 on a on a logo from a high schooler was spending $5,000 plus. Oh my God. So yes, as you can imagine, I'm sitting there fuming, getting even more angry. And then I honestly have no idea how long this was, but then he eventually came into the office and he saw me and physically jumped because his receptionist either wasn't there or just didn't care to tell him that I was there. So he jumped. He almost went, ooh! No, I'm sure that doesn't translate well on sound. And of course, internally, that made me laugh because I'm just like, yeah, you do jump. And so he sat down. Now, now I'm telling the story, this isn't necessarily a tire kicker situation. This is more an exploitation story. But looking back now, I should have seen the signs. Not of his eagerness and then lack of eagerness, but more his just wanting to poke things, wanting to prod things, asking questions, and then not following up. He didn't want to sign a contract, even though I had drafted one up. He said, oh, I'll sign the contract, but I need these things done now that I know that's a red flag. That's a bit more exploitation than it is tire kicking, but all of the signs were there for someone who was not going to hold their end of the bargain. Now, continuing my story, obviously, he sat down, he tried to position himself into his desk, barely could fit, by the way, because of all the stuff. And I said, in very calm tones, because when I get angry, I get fixated, I get poignant, and my dictation becomes very abrupt and very painful to people. And he then in turn just gave me the $50. Like, he opened his wallet, gave me the $50. And I just said, you aren't going to make it. And like, I just took it and took my bag and walked out. And when I said he isn't going to make it, that wasn't a death threat, by the way. That was you are not going to make it in business with this type of attitude. You are not going to make it in business with this type of mentality. And of course, his business lasted 6 months and then promptly collapsed. So when it comes to tire kickers in your world, maybe this example is not the most straightforward example I probably should have given there, but it was a fun story nonetheless. You're entertained. When it comes to these tire kickers, you need to use a methodology once you have identified them. Of course, I was naive. I was still new to the world. They were my first client. I was still I did all my best. I made sure not to give them the thing right away. I knew enough, but I didn't know everything. But with the tire kickers that you come across, once you have identified them or once you've seen them a mile off, using this method, the kind, clear, closed method. And thank you to Susan Kelber, the Notebook Coach, for this method that I have borrowed and put into personal branding perspective for us all. When it comes to these tire kickers, you need to start with gratitude, but then a clear no, because that's what I want to say. You want to start with gratitude, followed up there's no space in between these hands. You are like, they are right next to each other. You start with gratitude, quickly followed up by a clear no, and then closing the loop. If you have been dealing with any technical people as of late, closing the loop you are hearing a lot of in vernacular and speech. For you, being kind is thanking them for reaching out, or thanking them for probably reaching out to you more than once or on multiple different platforms, and acknowledge their energy. Acknowledge the passion that they're bringing, or maybe just thank you for giving your life story. You don't have to sound as sad as I did just then, but you can thank them in a kind tone. And of course, for all the women and non-binary folk who are watching, you also don't have to owe them kindness or warmth. You can just thank them. You don't have to put anything to it, especially if it's done by a text method. You don't necessarily need to owe them too much. Because especially these tire kickers. But if they're family, you might need to let them down easy to avoid any blow-ups. The next thing, you want to be clear. You want to say why it's a no. And it doesn't even have to be about them and their behavior if you do not want to bring it up. You can say that, for example, you're at capacity, or I have already scheduled in my volunteer or charity work for this year. Or maybe something, ultimately you want something that is very clear without over-explaining. Unlike me, because I do that a lot. You want to be able to keep it to a sentence or less because you're trying to be clear. And again, you're saying no. And if you need to come up with an excuse, so be it. Have it be close to a real excuse though, because if you lie, there is a chance that might backfire on you. Just FYI. You want to be clear. And once you've finished with being clear, while saying no, you want to close the loop. You want to end the conversation so there's no dangling follow-ups or potential reach-outs, or, for example, they're like, oh, maybe it's not the right time for you or you're at capacity now, I'll contact you in a month or two. And you want to be able to end that again with a very clear sentence that just says, thank you so much for reaching out. Best of luck finding other providers. Like, that is an example, but you're closing that conversation, but you're not closing the entire thing. Like, for example, if they want to reach out to you for a different service or a different thing, but maybe it's a couple of months after, so they're not as tire kickery, awesome, great. Maybe you can start, and there's been plenty of relationships that I have had with clients where that has been the case, where they've been tire kickers, and then a year later, they realize, oh, this is actually quite hard, I need your help. Awesome, thank you, great. You're not, like I said, you're ending this conversation and saying no for now. You're not saying to no to them as a whole. Now, if they're being malicious, if they're being predatory, sure, kick them to the curb and tell them to F off. But for everyone else, close, be kind, and be clear. And especially with these seagulls, as you can position them in your mind, you can keep this open-ended. Your template can be open-ended if you want to use that. But if you do keep an open-ended for whatever reason, you are going to invite more messages, more tasks that take up more of your energy, and ultimately more hovering without any pouncing. And leaving it open for them can leave a bit of resentment and bitter taste in your mouth. And that's not what you want to do. You don't want to open your DMs, open your emails, or open, your phone with your text messages with that feeling of disgust, with that feeling of resentment bubbling up within you because of you're just trying to be nice and you're trying to be kind, you're trying to let them down. No. Be clear, be kind, close it. And in the event that they don't contact you again after the clean close, they probably weren't the right fit because They were clearly just wanting your time, energy, without giving you the money in return or the resources that were going to be exchanged. And the bigger you get, and when I say not you personally, the bigger your personal brand gets, or the project that you're working on, which I've talked to a couple of people about, or your business, as it gets bigger, you are going to have more people wanting your time. So this needs to become a core skill for you, and it's going to be something you're going to have to repeat consistently. This is why templates are useful. This is why processes are useful. And for me, I now very much have gotten to the point of my personal brand where I very rarely offer time. If you want my time and you want my skill and expertise, pay me. Or, join my Camera Ready Confessions live streams where you can interact in the comments and I can answer it there, because those are times, or regular Academy chats that I have with, say, Omni Sam Spark Academy, approved, by the way. If you are someone who wants to ask me a question, those locations and times are available because I make them available. But outside of that, I'm going to need time in it. I'm going to need an exchange for money for my time and my knowledge and my skills. But as you get bigger, this is going to happen to you, and it's going to happen more often. I also want you to keep in mind, I want you to keep your customer avatar, so the person that you're doing this for, and your goals front and center, because you can get distracted by doing menial tasks. And this goes for all building your business and your personal brand. You can get distracted by doing menial tasks that don't affect or don't even help your customer avatar and don't help you achieve your goals. And when you're dealing with seagulls and tire kickers, they are distracting you from that. No matter what your goal is, they are distracting you from it. So you need to keep your person, your customer avatar, in front of you at all times. And as I've said, and recapping for today, seagulls, tire kickers, are not necessarily a maybe, but they are an energy cost for your brand, for your time, for your energies, or that of your staff, if they are the ones doing that work. Make sure to be kind and clear, and make sure to close so this helps you say no without feeling or being a jerk. And if you want to be a jerk, that is also okay. I want to stress that to all my peoples. You can be a jerk. It's okay. Yes, oh no, one person thinks you're a jerk. And if it gets out into the wider internet, oh no. They've seen you say no to something that's clearly going to take your time and energy for nothing in return. Oh no, the internet blowing something out of proportion? Never. Closing your conversation is the point. Having open loops builds resentment inside of you and also your staff. And you can protect your potential, be it time, energy, resources, without giving unlimited access to everyone. You can focus on what you're building for your people, and you can focus for what people are actually building this for. Thank you so much for joining me on the Unboring Your Brand podcast. The next podcast that I would love you to queue up in your podcasting feed are episode 42, Prioritizing Strategy Over Format. Now, you can imagine what we talked about today, but keeping you anchored in your audience and not in distractions, like seagulls, can make this easier by prioritizing strategy when it comes to your content. Because, of course, marketing has a lot of content involved. And the other episode I'd love you to check out and put in your feed right after this one is episode 74, Do Not Force the Final Format. So, reminder that your content, your proof of what you do and your time is for the people you serve and not every single request that you get through the pipeline. An action that I would love you to do, if you're driving, don't do this, but for everyone else, write either in a notebook or a diary your your kind, clear, close script. It can be in a notes app, or it can be just honestly take a bit of time to think about what you would say. And if you need some tools to help you, so be it. But have two versions for you. One for strangers. So these are people that you don't have a lot of stakes with ultimately, and for warm contacts, people you've had a couple of conversations with, or maybe repeated seagull flybys that you can do. So like an example would be, thanks for reaching out. I'm not the right fit for this, so I'm going to have to leave it here. Wishing you best luck with that. Of course, that is a very generic example, but using the examples you've come with today, you will definitely find yours. And I would love to offer anyone who is watching or listening to this to check out our, as I mentioned, camera-ready confidence live streams that I run free as a weekly place to get practical momentum and ask your questions. And we do this 10 a.m. Every Friday, Melbourne time, and that live stream is an opportunity for you to do this on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitch, on our website. We are everywhere. So if you need a question answered and you don't want to be one of those seagulls, you can always reach out to me at those times on that platform. Or if not, you can always just reach out to my DMs and I'll just point you in the direction of the CRC. And if this episode has helped you or someone who you think it should help, make sure to hit subscribe and follow so you don't miss the next episode, which is next week. And make sure to add a quick review on Spotify or Apple Podcast, promoting how much you like this podcast if you liked it. And if you do not like it, feel free to review it anyway, because that'll all the reviews help. Thank you. And I'll see you next week on the Unboring Your Brand podcast. Why? Because she was able to bring those people who are interested in what she does with her. And for the people who wanted her old stuff, her old website was still there. She just wasn't going to be able to help or serve people in that direct way anymore. And that is okay. Your personal brand should grow with you as you grow throughout your life. Thank you everyone for joining me for this week's Camera Ready Confessions, which was filmed on the 20th of March 2026. I forgot to do that at the start. Oops. Thank you for everyone who had commented, asked questions, put your thoughts or your ideas for topics in the chat box. And make sure I will watch after the live stream as well, #ReplaySquad, to answer any of your comments or questions. If you've missed any part of the live stream, do watch or listen to the whole live stream on our website, vcc.training/camera-ready-confessions, because I like to be clear with my URLs. Or you can watch it on this platform of choice, however you found us. Next week, the stream is, why are my videos getting ignored? This is a question I get an awful lot, and there are plenty of reasons, and we'll go through them in next week's episode. You've got the skills, you've worked with clients, your offer is actually helping people. Yay! So why are your videos sitting there with 3 views? And one of them's your mum. So we, for the next Camera Ready Confessions, we are digging into why good content still gets overlooked. And no, it's not because you're boring or you're bad on camera. It's because you're not speaking your audience's language. And the algorithm's language, to be perfectly honest. If your dream clients can't find your content, can't find your proof, they definitely can't watch it. So we'll look into how using the right words with the ones that your audiences actually type in and search for changes everything, and how small shifts in your message can help you lead to bigger changes in engagement and hopefully the people that you serve. As always, we'll catch up on the latest world of personal branding and video marketing news, what's working, what's flopping, and what you can swipe for your own content. With, of course, credit, because we need to credit these things. My hair is gone, because get back there. Or not. I give up on you. I'll see you. I'll see you there. And thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to finish up because we are just on time now. Make sure to confess your camera. I got to remember my own tagline here. Confess your camera sins next week. Same time, same place.